date of October 25th of 2012. Were you working at the HSB unit that day?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me what a peer support person is?
Peer support is an inmate worker who monitors a group of inmates that we classify as suicidal or under psychiatric observation. So they'll be in the area that those inmates are housed in, doing constant visuals on them.
Okay. And so a peer support person is essentially a trustee, kind of?
Yeah, inmate worker.
They get credit for working as a peer support person towards the sentence of being?
Yes, they earn manual labor credits.
Okay. And what that means is that a normal person who doesn't do anything but sit on their cot at Del Valley and they're charged with a misdemeanor offense, that is a non-felony offense, they can get credit 2 for 1, that is 2 days credit for every 1 day that they are in Del Valley, correct?
Yes.
But a person who is working peer support or receiving manual labor credits, they get an additional day, correct?
Yeah, for every day they work, they can get 1 more day off their sentence up until a third of their sentence off. Okay.
So essentially 3 for 1 kind of credit.
Yeah.
Is how they commonly refer to it.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have on October 25th, 2012, a peer support person working with you by the name of Luis Escalante?
Yes.
And on that particular day, did Mr. Escalante come and relay anything to you that had to do with Brandon Daniel?
Yes. It was a report that I wrote about the situation. He approached our desk and informed us that inmate Daniels and another inmate in the unit area that he was in were speaking to each other, and that peer support had told us that inmate Daniels was reportedly going to give that other inmate a spoon, a plastic spoon, an item which that inmate was not allowed to have at the time. Also made reference to attempting to grab an officer's unit keys when the food chute was opened. The food chute is in the door, how we can access them. Mm-hmm. And yeah.
And he was essentially talking about what Troy Williams was saying, is that correct?
He was relaying to us a conversation that both inmates were having back and forth.
Okay. And with regard to Mr. Williams, you said he wasn't allowed to have a spoon because he would always swallow them, is that correct?
He had prior incidents of swallowing various items, including pencils, in order to be trying to take into the hospital.
And he was later found to be incompetent. Were you there when that happened?
I was not.
Okay. Let me ask you, just to summarize what Mr. Escalante had told you, if I understand your testimony, what you're saying is that he told you he overheard a conversation wherein Mr. Daniel was allegedly going to slide a spoon over to Mr. Williams so that Mr. Williams could use as a weapon to subdue or overcome a guard so that both he and Mr. Daniel could escape, correct?
No, in my report, I was only writing what the peer support had relayed to me. I didn't make any inferences as to what it was he was trying to do with that item.
Okay, fair enough. So at any point, did Mr. Escalante tell you that Mr. Daniel was going to have and Mr. Williams were going to coordinate their court settings so that Mr. Daniel could have somebody at the courthouse come and shoot up the courthouse?
That was never said to me.
Would it surprise you to learn that he said that he did in fact tell you that?
Yes.
Okay. Because if he had told you that, would you have written a report about it?
Yes, that would have been included in the report that I wrote.
Okay, but he never told you that?
Correct.
And can you tell me, Officer Ferguson, who is your supervisor over there at Del Valley?
Currently, it's Sergeant Melody Harden and Sergeant Michael Bonesteel.
And at the time, who was your supervisor?
Thinking back, I believe it would be Sergeant Foster. And
that's who you would have reported this incident to?
I would have reported to the on-duty supervisor at that time, whoever it would have been. I don't at this time.
You said there was some testimony that at some point that they began to use paper spoons in that particular area. Do you know if at that time they were using paper spoons yet?
I do not recall if that was started yet.
Okay. Were you present, or did you learn about Mr. Escalante being relieved from his duties as peer support because he eventually gave a pencil to Mr. Williams and he swallowed it?
I remember some peer support doing that at some point. I did not know if it was Escalante or someone else.
Thank you, Officer Ferguson. Pass it over to you.
Officer Ferguson, is inmate Williams and Daniel, were there places close by where they could speak to each other?
At that time, they would have been right across from each other with about 5 feet in between each other.
If they wanted to have an escape plan, they could talk to each other about their escape.
They would basically be able to talk to each other for as long as they were housed there.
And if they did speak to each other across that space, this fire watcher, Escalante, would have been able to hear them, correct?
Yes.
And he was relating what he believed he heard them discuss, is that correct?
Yes.
And inmates do discuss escape plans, don't they?
That can be something that they talk about.
Do inmates sometimes keep up with the movement of corrections officers?
You'll find that inmates will kind of monitor you and see what time you're doing things and how you're doing them.
That's a security concern, isn't it?
Yes.
They could be planning some kind of escape plan, or planning to assault an officer, correct?
That option is always there.
And if you learned that an inmate was keeping notes about different corrections officers, that's something that y'all would report and make a record of, correct?
Correct.
Did you learn that the defendant, Brandon Daniels, had been doing that?
I don't remember at this time. There could be a report written about that as far as notes that might have been confiscated.
Was it in the health services building when he was found to be making hooch, or was that at another part?
I don't remember.
Do you remember where he was at when he came? He was hoarding pills.
I believe that was in our building.
And that's illegal, right?
Yes, that is against the rules in the jail.
The jail policy is to have contraband like that?
Correct.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Officer Quinn, one last question. If you yourself were searching a cell and you came across a piece of paper that had corrections officers' names on it, times and meetings and such, would you have seized that paper and turned it in as a report?
Most definitely.
That would have been something that would have been a concern to you, and you would have written a report and taken that paper to your supervisor, correct?
Yes.
No further questions.
No questions?
Thank you, you may sit down.
Our next witness is Lindsay, so I don't know if the court will take that.
You take us into a break.